The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. Our guest tonight comes all the way from England, and he is a multi-instrumentalist and singer, and great to have him on the show tonight. So welcome to the show, Matt Hodson.
Hi Dave, thank you so much for having me on the show tonight. It's actually my first ever international interview as a solo artist, so I am extremely excited to just get stuck in and have a chat with you.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, Matt, I've heard a lot of your instrumentals, and there's a lot of soul in your sound. When did you start your journey in music?
For me, I pretty much started my musical journey from the day I was born. My parents have told me the story that they once heard me whistling and humming the radio jingles that had just been on, note for note. And then from there, I just grew in my fascination for music. And I think at the age of 8, I picked up the piano and started to learn that. And then from the age of 10, I started to learn the saxophone. So I've been playing for about 10 to 8 years now, or 8 to 10 years. But music has just been sort of a focal point for me all of my life.
Now, besides being a solo performer, you're also in a jazz group as well as an alternative rock band. With your mellow sound as a solo artist, how do you turn the switch over to the other genres? And is it a natural adjustment?
Yeah, I'm in a jazz group called Route 25 and also an alternative rock band called The Wiremen. I'm also in a band called Altum, but sadly we haven't played for a while and we were more hard rock. But the interesting thing about the two rock bands were that they still had a saxophone in, much like the jazz group. So I think that sort of brought a uniqueness to the band, which was not seen in other bands, which is quite cool. But how do I switch over from the other genres is an interesting thing. I'd say it's quite a natural adjustment. I listen to quite a broad range of genres and music. So I think by just putting myself in that musical space of being in a rock setting, I'm able to adjust quite easily and quite confidently. That being said, I wouldn't say that it's just come like this. You know, I've done a load of gigs and a load of practices with the bands over the years that I've been with them, and I think from that practice I've been able to learn and work out a way of sort of turning the switch off from my more chilled, mellow sound to a more rocky or jazzy sound, for example.
Now you have a new single called Sun and Moon, featuring Nikki Wilson. So talk about that single and how that project got off the ground.
Yes, so I've got a single, Sun and Moon, coming out on the 27th of January, featuring the amazing Nikki Wilson. She's a brilliant singer that I've met this year due to going to university. And I suppose the project got off the ground when I was just playing around on the piano at home. And I've actually got a recording of the first time that I came up with it, and I said to my dad, can you quickly record this, because I think it's a pretty cool motif, but it sounded like this so far. As you can see, it's sort of that's sort of the main basis of the song. Played better, of course, but it's interesting how from there it's built into something so much bigger.
Tell me, my friend, will we see the light of day again? Goodbye, goodbye. See you fly away.
yeah, that single, it's Sun and Moon. It's about two different people going their separate ways, but also there's quite a bit of tension, and I think until you finish the song you don't know what's happened between them both. And I'd quite like people to come up with their own way of thinking about it and their own story behind it. In some ways I like to have a story behind my music, but in other ways I want the audience to come up with their own personal story.
You play multiple instruments and play them all well. Are you self-taught, or did you receive training in all those multiple instruments that you play?
Well, for me, I'd say it's a bit of both. For singing, I am completely self-taught.
Wow.
I have had no classical training whatsoever. However, for saxophone and piano, I was taught at school, I got private teaching, and then I did a junior academy called the Junior RNCM, which stands for Royal Northern College of Music, up until now, where I am now at the senior college or university. So yeah, it's a bit of both, definitely.
Now, you live in the north of England. One of the things that we talk a lot about on our show is the fact that UK and a lot of European countries, there's really no boxing into music like there is here in the US. There's one chart in the UK, and artists don't feel like they really need to have one particular genre or be boxed in like we just spoke about. Do you find this to be true?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And I think for me, I don't know much about the US charts. I do know that a lot of them are heavily driven by pop, rock, hip hop, etc. But I'd also say that is quite true for the UK as well. I think there are definitely more artists that are sort of trying to bend what you can do in genres, and there's definitely a huge variety of different artists on the charts right now, which is really exciting in my opinion, and something that I think everyone should encourage. But I think we still have quite a long way to go. I think there's a lot of great independent artists who are wanting to get on the charts, but are sadly knocked off because there's so many mainstream artists around right now that just get on the top charts immediately that it's quite hard to find these independent artists. Also, just to clarify, that's not me in any way having a pop at popular mainstream artists of today. I think what they're doing is brilliant, their music is great, and I think they should continue doing it, creating those bangers and creating hits that people want to listen to.
Now, you're still very young at 18. Where do you want your career to go from here?
Well, fun fact, I'm actually 19 on the day of Sun and Moon being released, and it was a happy accident. I was mixing and mastering the tune, and I've heard of, the 6-week rule to try and get onto editorial playlists and things like that, and they recommend that you leave it at least 6 weeks. So I was like, right, when's 6 weeks? And it was 27th of January, so I was like, oh, okay, brilliant, I'll release it on my birthday. But
oh, that's cool.
Side note, sorry, that was a big detour from the question. But yeah, where I'd see my career going from here, I think I'd love to see it going as far as possible. I know that doesn't really answer the question as well as it could do, but I know I'm a performer, I know that's what I love to do, so I'm gonna put the work in, and I'd hope to see my career going to a stage where I'd be able to have a career performing all around the world. I'd love to be able to produce music, produce albums. That would just be absolutely incredible. I think that's where I'm wanting to go. But I think overall the main thing I want to do is just show people my passion for music, show people my love for what I do, and hopefully inspire people. I know that sounds cheesy, but it'll be cool to get some more people wanting to pick up an instrument, wanting to create music, because I think music can be one of the most powerful things ever.
That's well said. If there was one venue in the world that you'd like to play, where would it be?
Oh, I love this question. One venue that I'd love to play in the world, where would it be? Well, can I include festivals? I'm hoping I can include festivals, because there's a stage at a well-known festival that you've probably heard of called Glastonbury. And I think it would be absolutely amazing to play at the main stage in Glastonbury.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good.
Because, you know, it's Glastonbury, and their sets are always amazing. The vibe is just incredible, and I think there'd be a lot of creative freedom in completing and performing a gig there, and I think it would be quite a spectacle to watch and to do. But I'd also say I'm not really one of those people that's like, I don't want to play in small venues, I want to play in big arenas. Although big arenas and like big festivals like Glastonbury are absolutely incredible, and I'm sure it's an amazing experience to have, I think being in a small venue where you're more intimately connected with your audience and your fans is really special. So I'd love to play in a small venue like that as well, where people know the music and they're just happy to be there and happy to vibe with me.
Matt, I got to talk about this, social media, but do you find that through social media you have more of an ability to collaborate with others in maybe different countries, and do you think that would help your career?
I would have to say that I do indeed think that because of social media, us as musicians, as people that create, etc., have more of ability to definitely collaborate with others. For example, I was involved in a lo-fi project with musicians from all around the world, from America. You've interviewed Rotten Apple, so Gabe was involved in that. That's how I knew about this show, actually. And there have been people from Peru, people from India, people from South Africa, Italy, you name it, a lot of countries. And I think social media helps us to just reach out and just say, hi, I'm a musician, would you be interested in this? And I think it's a really, really powerful tool. And from my experience anyway, everyone seems to be up for it, and it's just a brilliant way to build a relationship with somebody new and to see where it goes from there. And I think that's just the beauty of it, really.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and my best to you and your career, and hopefully we can have you back sometime.
Well, I've got to say thank you for having me on the show. As I said, this is my first ever international interview as a solo artist, so I have thoroughly enjoyed all of it. I hope my answers have been interesting. I hope people have found it sort of captivating and have managed to stick around for the end of it, and I hope to speak to you soon. I've really enjoyed it, so thank you very much.
Matt Hodson, everyone.